At the outset, I submit my most reverential pranams to lotus feet of His Holiness Dr. Sri Sri Shivkumar Swamiji, founder, president of Sri Siddhganga Education Society, Tumkur, and most reverential pranams to the lotus feet of His Holiness Sri Sri Siddhganga Swamiji, president of Sri Siddhganga Education Society, Tumkur. So now we request Dr. H.S. Jaina, Professor and Head, Department of Information Science and Engineering, to deliver the welcome speech. Sir?
Okay, PS. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Good morning to all. At the outset, I submit my reverential pranams at the lotus feet of His Holiness Lingaikya, Dr. Sri Sri Shivkumara Swamiji, founder, president of Sri Siddhaganga Education Society, and Sri Sri Siddhalinga Swamiji, president, Sri Siddhaganga Education Society. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to this function. As per NASSCOM survey 2020, 3 million cybersecurity professionals are required in next 3 years. To upskill the knowledge of IT professionals, teachers, and students, central government and state governments have been organizing skill development programs in cybersecurity to meet the requirements of Digital India and National Education Policy. So in this direction, our institute has been encouraging to organize various faculty development programs, seminars, and webinars for both in-house and external faculty members. Last year, our department organized AICT Atal FDP on cybersecurity from 9th to 13th November 2020 to inaugurate this year's faculty development program on cyber security, storage system architecture, and file system forensic when we requested Sri K.V. Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Security Council of India, Bangalore, has kindly consented to inaugurate and deliver inaugural address. Sir, I welcome you to this morning function. Sri Samir Dutt, founder CEO, ForensicGuru.com, has consented to be guest of honor in this function. Sir, I welcome you to this function. I welcome our beloved director, Dr. M.N. Channabasappa sir, to this function. I welcome our beloved CEO, Dr. Shivkumaraya sir, and our principal, Professor S.V. Dinesh sir, to this function. I welcome resource persons, delegates from various institutes across the country, faculty members, and innovators to this function. Before I conclude my speech, I would like to give brief introduction about our institute, Siddhaganga Institute of Technology, popularly known as SIT Tumkur, and our department, Information Science and Engineering, to guests and participants. SIT was established in the year 1963. SIT is a flagship institute among the 125 institutions run by Sri Siddhaganga Education Society. SIT is offering 13 UG programs and 13 PG programs, and 16 departments are recognized as research center for offering PhD program. The NIRF of our institute is 101 in 2021. Our institute has NAC accreditation with the A grade and ISO 9001-2015 certified. The AICT has selected 5 institutes in the state of Karnataka to accord Idea Lab, and our institute is one among them. The Department of Information Science and Engineering was established in the academic year 98-99. The department UG intake is 60. The department is offering MTech program in cyber forensic and information security since 2015. I request the participants to inform about this MTech program to your students and colleagues. Students who have been getting MTech degree in cyber forensic and information security are placed in top level companies. The department is having 13 permanent faculty members, among them 7 faculty with PhD degree. The remaining faculty members are pursuing PhD degree in reputed institutes and universities. The faculty members have been carrying out funded projects, publishing papers in reputed journals and conferences. With this, once again, I welcome you all to this morning function. Thank you, Nanda.
So we are highly thankful to Dr. H.S. Jaina, Professor and Department of ISC, for deliver the welcome speech. So now we request Dr. Amulya S., Assistant Professor, Vedavati First Grade College of Police and Police Trainer, Chitradurga, to perform invocation.
Very good morning to all the dignitaries and invitees. Vignaraj Shri Vinayaka Vara Vignaraj Shri Vinayaka Vara Vignaraj Shri Vinayaka Vara Siddhi Vinayaka Namo Namo Sute Vigna Rajashri Ratnakachita Makutambar Namani Ratnakachita Makutambar Namani Ratnakachita Makutambar Namani Kundala Mandita Kumar Guruvar Sagasa Sagama Pamagasa Gama Pani Pani Pama Pamagas Gama Pani Pani Sa Sagasani Nisani Papani Pama Mapamagasa Gama Gama Mapa Pani Pani Nisa Gama Gasa Sani Sani Papani Pani Pama Mapa Pamagasan Saga Gama Mapa Pani Pani Nisa Nisa Saga Magasa Sani Ni Papa Mamagasa Vigna Raja Shri Vinayaka Vara Siddhi Vinayaka Namo Namo Sute Vigna Raja Shri Gagar Nama Ganeshwara Ganapriya Gagar Nama Ganeshwara Ganapriya Guna Anugraha Ganya Sevita Guna Anugraha Ganya Sevita Guna Kruti Kara Guna Paripalaka Guna Kruti Kara Guna Paripalaka Moshika Vahana Meenakshi Guruvara Sagasa Sagama Pamagasa Gama Pani Pani Pama Pamagas Gama Pani Pani Sa Sagasani Nisani Papani Pama Mapamag Saga Gama Gama Mapa Pani Pani Nisa Gaga Magasa Gasa Sani Sani Papani Ni Pani Pam Mapa Pamagasa Nisa Gama Mapa Pani Nisa Nisa Saga Magasa Sani Ni Papa Mamagasa Sani Vigna Raj Shri Vinaya Kavara Siddhi Vinayaka Namo Namo Sute Vigna Rajashri. Thank you.
So we are highly thankful to Dr. Amulya for melodious invocation. Now we request Dr. Rudramurthy MS, Associate Professor, Department of ISC, SIT Tumkur, to introduce the chief guest, Sri K. Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Security Council of India, and Sri Samir Dutt, Founder, CEO, ForensicGuru.com, to the audience.
Good morning to all. At the outset, I submit my most reverential pranams to the lotus feet of His Holiness Dr. Sri Sri Shivakumaram Swamiji Gadu, our founder, president of Sri Siddhaganga Education Society. And also I submit my most reverential pranams to the lotus feet of Sri Siddhalingam Mahaswami Gadu, our present president of Sri Siddhaganga Education Society, Tumkur. It is my immense pleasure and privilege to introduce our distinguished chief guest, Mr. K. Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Security Council of India. Sri Venkatesh Murthy has over 17 years of experience in cybercrime investigation, training, and digital forensic. He is currently managing a program for capacity building of law enforcement officials by training through the Digital Forensic Initiative of Data Security Council of India. He was deeply involved in setting up a country's unique public-private partnership initiative, Cybercrime Investigation Training and Research, CCITR, at the Cybercrime Police Station, CID Headquarters, Bangalore, in partnership with Karnataka Police, Infosys Foundation, and Data Security Council of India. Mr. Murthy has conducted an exclusive and exhaustive cybercrime training program for police, prosecution, and judiciary of India. He has edited several publications of law enforcement, including the Cybercrime Investigation Manual, Pocket Guide for Investigators, etc. He is an alumnus of International Visitors Leadership Program, IVLP program of US Department of State on the topic Linkage Digital Policy to Cybercrime Law Enforcement in February 2017. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Telecommunication from Visvesvaraya Technological University, Belgaum. Also, we have another distinguished special invitee and expert speaker online, and he joined our session, Mr. Samir Dutt. It is our immense pleasure and privilege to introduce our distinguished guest, Sri Samir Dutt. Samir Dutt is the founder and director of Foundation Futuristic Technologies Private Limited, New Delhi, and is most popularly known as ForensicGuru.com in the world. Sri Samir Dutt is a person with a charming personality, knowledgeable and expert in the field of digital forensic. Mr. Dutt is a published author, a much sought after speaker, and an angel investor of India and a successful entrepreneur. Sri Samir Dutt is an alumni of NIT Roorkee, IIT Kanpur, and Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi. Sri Samir Dutt is a visionary who founded his company Forensic Guru in 1999. Mr. Dutt provided his valuable service and training to Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, and I am proud to state that the company is placed within top 5 cyber forensic companies in India. This company is offering skill-based training in cyber forensic and digital evidence areas to young generations of the country. Sri Samir Dutt is having vast experience in the field of cyber forensic for more than 30 years and has worked extensively for India, UK, and USA. He is the president of Digital Investigators Association. Mr. Dutt is an author of Learning Network Forensics, which is published by Pocket Publishers, UK. He is a fellow of the Indian Police Foundation. He also works as a visiting faculty for National Police Academy, Hyderabad, CBI Academy, National Institute of Criminology and Forensic Science, New Delhi, and for many others. Mr. Dutt is an angel investor for product startups in the cyber forensic and investigation fields. I am very much pleasure to Samir Dutt, sir. Samir Dutt, sir. Over to Dr. Purohit.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes. Thank you very much for the kind introduction.
Thankful to Dr. Rudramurthy MS, Associate Professor, Department of ISC. So we are delighted to request our chief guest, Sri K. Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Security Council of India, to inaugurate 5-day Atal FDP on cyber security, storage system architecture, and file system forensic to address the participants. Sir?
Yeah.
Venkatesh Murthy, sir?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
At the outset, I would like to compliment Siddhaganga Institute of Technology for taking this initiative of organizing the program on cyber security. it's not a general cybersecurity program because I have gone through the agenda. The topics covered are very unique when it comes to cybersecurity workshops because storage system architecture and file systems are less spoken in the conferences and training programs. We try to cover the topics at a very high level, not at a very high level. We try to cover, but I should tell the audience that this workshop is not yet another workshop which will have dozen of speakers talking about various topics. Instead, I would like to compliment the organizers uh, for number one, the selection of topics, number two, selection of speakers. If you look at the speakers, even though the speakers are very minimum, but the kind of expertise, but the kind of experience they have is phenomenal. Okay, in-depth classes related to storage system fundamentals, volume analysis, FAT concepts, etc. are very, very important when it comes to understanding digital forensics. Because one thing I would like to tell you here is, unlike the other domains, one who knows the basics in digital forensics is called the expert. Because having the high-level superficial knowledge about digital forensics may fetch him a lot of public publicity, all those things. But end of the day, the expertise, in order to call himself as an expert, you need to know the basics. The person who knows the basics is the expert. So now let me share a few thoughts about cyber crimes. So cyber crimes has matured into a large profit-driven industry. Increasing specialization and professionalism of cyber criminals has definitely resulted in the growth of the virtual marketplaces, dealing with a lot of compromised financial information. Online banking trojans are available. Banking logins are available on sale. The banned items like weapon, drugs, malware, etc. are part of the cybercrime services on deep web or dark web. Although many private sector studies regularly related to the statistics of cyber crimes and associated losses, I feel there is a significant methodological and data challenges involved in estimating the total cost of the cyber crimes. Cyber criminals gets profit from their adventures in the digital underground due to the systematic issues to give them upper hand, particularly around jurisdiction. The anonymous nature of internet and lack of international cooperation is one very important aspect when it comes to effective handling of cyber crimes, because the technology offers for the criminal a lot of advantages, like in a matter of few minutes the criminal of a cybercrime can virtually visit 6 or even more countries, hopping from server to server, continent to continent in an instant. But what about the police or the investigator who have to follow the digital evidence trail to investigate the matter? While the criminals are using artificial intelligence to script and automate crimes, police are responding to each crime manually. The core elements of our criminal justice system need to be minimally fluent in the language of science and technology. In this regard, I would recommend or suggest or request SIT Tumukuru to organize few special programs for police, prosecution, and judiciary in understanding the advanced developments in digital forensics. Experts like Samir Dutt, Chandrasekhar, Baba Subramani would definitely be very happy to share their experience. They all have a very good experience working closely with law enforcement agencies across the country. So if SID Tumkur can take a lead in organizing some programs for police, prosecution and judiciary, I think we would be able to handle cyber crimes in a better way, because cyber attacks happen. They can't be stopped. You can't have a complete solution, or there is no solution for cyber attacks to stop the cyber attacks, because the higher order question is how can we construct our rapidly emerging technological world in a way that is much more resilient. The only worse than being hacked is being hacked and not knowing about it, because there are many organizations today who are not aware that they are already hacked. So handling the cyber crimes can't be done by government alone. The private sector also can't do this alone. Any real solutions would require government, industry, and academia to work together. Okay, whether it's a software vendor, internet companies, IoT manufacturers, or any IT infrastructure providers, we need to understand their responsibility, individual responsibilities, and we will have to come together in a single platform where we try to discuss the issues related to technology, because technology is always it gives a lot of advantages. It gives you a lot of benefits, and at the same time, along with the benefits, few problems also come in. Okay, so in addition to the call for a public-private partnership in promoting public education, seeking collaboration from academia is very essential. And particularly about this workshop, what I have found is the agenda. It talks about storage system architecture and file systems. So what I feel in my experience of working closely with the law enforcement agencies for about 16 years, to investigate any computer evidence effectively, you must understand how the most commonly used operating systems work and how they store the files. Because now we are gone are those days where we used to deal with the operating systems where the security was minimum, and also the file systems fat and all, they were known for no security or less security. Now the file systems have also improved like anything, and each individual service provider comes with his own proprietary file system. The next pain area for us is the CCTV, where the CCTV, the hard drives used in a CCTV DVR system is a non-proprietary file system. So a file system gives an operating system a roadmap to data on a disk, how exactly the data is stored, how it is organized, what happens when a file is deleted, all those things. So the type of file system an operating system uses determines how data is stored on the disk. So no matter which platform you use, you need to know how to access and modify system settings when necessary. So from a digital forensic perspective, when you need to access a suspect, because most of the time in India, digital forensics is it's seen as mostly used by the law enforcement, but that's not true. Because digital forensics is emerging in India as a profession, because a lot of corporates, the banks, what I mean to tell the audience is the kind of demand the digital forensics is creating is phenomenal, because the Reserve Bank of India, they are encouraging the banking industry to set up their own digital forensic laboratories where they can do some forensic analysis. Likewise, the IT industry, a lot of their security team, they have started integrating digital forensics in their already existing internal investigation team. Similarly, the public sector organizations now have seen a lot of public sector organizations, their vigilance department, so-called vigilance department, which focus mainly on those prevention, fraud prevention, detection, all those things. Even they have started adopting digital forensics. I think digital forensics is one area where there exists a lot of opportunities, and uh, uh, institutions like Siddhaganga, if can definitely take lead in organizing some programs, because unless the academia joins with the industry and law enforcement, meaningful courses cannot be offered. So uh, observe, I am associated with the Siddhaganga Institute of Technology for more than 3-4 years. What I have seen is, in addition to the MTech course they are offering, they also have this desire of uh, bringing digital forensics as a profession in India. And I'm sure this workshop provides an excellent opportunity for the participants to learn digital forensics, exact digital forensics. This program, I call it as a real digital forensic program, because we are talking about the basics. Any course that talks about basics, I consider it as an advanced course. And this course, looking at the topics, looking at the profile of the speakers, I don't hesitate to say that it's a very good opportunity for the participants to understand the digital forensics, and definitely there are a lot of avenues for your um, to use your learning wherever you want. Because if you look at look at the recent job market history or the Gartner's report on digital forensics market is improving like anything, and there are a lot of opportunities which the students can definitely consider. So I once again thank Sri Siddhaganga Institute of Technology for giving me this opportunity to be part of this program, and I wish the audience all the best, good learning. Thank you very much.
So thank you, sir. So we are highly grateful to our chief guest, Dr. Sri KV Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Council of India, for delivered the informative keynote address. Now we request our special invitee and distinguished expert speaker, Sri Samir Dutt, founder CEO, ForensicGuru.com, to address the audience. Sir Samir, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
It
morning.
is a pleasure and an honor to be here and invited to this August program on faculty development at the SIT. In fact, this is, I'll just turn off my video because there seems to be a little bit of a problem. I hope you will allow that. Check, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. A little bit volume, bit more, sir.
Your voice is very low, sir. Just-
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes,
now
sir.
here.
Sir, please.
Okay, excellent. So I have for the last few years been loudly voicing the fact that the next level of body shopping that is going to come from India is going to be of digital forensic experts. The earlier trend was that we would be sending software programmers in large volumes to foreign countries, but I have a feeling that the next wave is going to be that of digital forensic experts. And what you are doing, sir, is a human service to the nation by providing people who can provide digital forensic services and training them and building up a workforce with the capability of handling digital forensics. So I would say that the significance and relevance of this faculty development program, this current scenario, is tremendous. In fact, I understand that the SIT has played a very important role in imbibing cyber forensic knowledge to create these human resources for the country. And a lot of efforts have been put in by the Institute in this regard. I'm aware that SIT had started the PG program, the MTech in cyber forensic and information security in 2015. And we also had some interns visit our facility, and we found them of very good quality. So I understand that there were only 13 members in the branch, and the department had also organized R&D visits for the faculty and the students at the RCCF, CDAC. Trivandrum had a MOU with the RCCF. The department had organized the FDP also during 2015, trained the faculty in this domain. In fact, quite recently, in 2019 and 20, the department had organized one Atal FDP in cybersecurity, and this was very well attended. The department faculty, of course, actively participated, but a total of 118 faculty members were present, which was substantial. And of course, the SIT is working to execute MOUs with various organizations to utilize their strength and also to develop internal strength and the human resources that SIT is so lovingly nurturing. As part of this, the Institute encourages students to undertake internships and trainings. And also in 2016, 13 students of MTech in CFIS took 3 months internships at the RCCF. One of the students has got admission for PhD in cyber forensics and cyber security at BITS, Ranchi. However, COVID-19 has put a bit of a stopper at all the efforts. The department, I understand, has 6 PhD faculty and 3 faculty pursuing PhD at NITK Surat. The institute sponsors faculty to pursue PhD. So all these are, very laudable efforts. These are the efforts that build a department, build an organization, build an institution, and build a nation. And I must laud you for all the efforts that the SIT has done in this regard. And I wish you the very best for this faculty development program. Thank you.
So we remain grateful to Dr. Shamir Dutt, founder CEO, forensicguru.com, for address the audience. Now we request Dr. S.V. Dinesh, Principal, SIT Tumkur, to address the session. Sir. Dinesh, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Chief guest of today's function, Sri Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Security Council of India. Special invitee, Samir K. Dutt, Founder CEO, ForensicGuru.com. President of this function, respected Professor MNC, our Director. Guest of honor, our beloved Professor Shivkumar A. Sir, CEO, SIT Tumkur. Dr. H.S. Jayana, Head of the Department of Information Science. Dr. Rudramurthy, the workshop coordinator of this workshop. Dr. Purohit Srinivasacharya, participants from various institutes and industry, faculty members of the Department of Information Science and Engineering. Very good morning to all of you. I am very happy to participate in this inaugural function of the 1-week FDP on cyber security, that is storage system architecture and file system forensics, organized by the Department of Information Science and Engineering of our institute, with support from Atal scheme of AICTE. Of course, I am not an expert in this area. Just now we heard Sri Venkatesh Murthy highlighting what this area means. However, cyber crime is growing at a very faster rate in various forms these days. Digital forensic became popular after 2000, the year 2000, and many countries have recognized this digital evidence as part of forensic discipline. We were under the belief that this digital forensic is applicable for judiciary, but now we stand corrected that this area is also is widely required in the area of corporates, banking system, and public sector also. This is what was highlighted by Sri Venkatesh Murthy sir. Of course, the trial of breadcrumbs leads to digital evidence. That is the focus there. The digital forensic examination requires handling of very large data and data to be processed at a very faster rate. And we understand that this includes handling of multiple systems, including the networking, obtaining live response and memory data. Another problem in digital forensic is centralized processing laboratories. You are aware of this. But the problem here is the backlog in these labs is piling up. The question is how to minimize this backlog is also a current issue. And of course, the experts have identified 3 major challenges in digital forensic. The first one being source-related issues and challenges. Yes, in this context, we need to handle very large volume of data, very complex data. Also, just now Venkatesh Murthy has told forensic experts means you should be really expert. They need to update themselves with new tools and technology. So that is very much required. That's a big challenge. So if there is no updation, I think we get lost. The second challenge is law-related issues and challenges. Of course, different countries have different laws, and business is happening over many geographical boundaries. And what is permitted in one country may not be permitted in the other country, and our experts have a real challenge there. So that is one aspect. The other aspect is privacy issue. So when the matter is taken to judiciary, I think expert need to disclose information about organizations and individuals that may be detrimental to both the organizations and individuals. How to overcome this is also a challenge. And another important issue is presentation of data in readable form in a court of law is also a challenge, which of course Venkatesh Murthy rightly pointed out. Of course, there are valid tools have been identified and listed by various countries, but there is always a possibility the validity of these tools is always challenged by the other side. The third one is scientific issues and challenges. Technology used today is for both good and bad purposes, and equally used for both good and bad purposes. That's a real challenge. And anti-forensic techniques and tools, when they are used to damage the data, the experts have the real challenge. Therefore, there is a need to develop standards of storage and file systems for cybersecurity and digital forensic investigation. Hardware development to identify and mitigate the technical and functional issues and challenges are required. Of course, extensive research is conducted for increased processing power applied to digital forensics, as well as an improvement of the current tools and techniques. And I believe this week-long workshop will focus on these issues. Finally, I congratulate the Information Science and Engineering Department of our institute, the head of the department, faculty members for taking this initiative. And we wish that many more such programs will be organized, as pointed out by Sri Venkatesh Murthy and also Samir, that the department will take up more programs to train more experts and also judiciary and the police force. I think that will be taken up by our Information Science and Engineering Department. Finally, I wish this workshop will be useful to all the participants in addressing the issues and challenges related to cybersecurity. Thank you. Thank you.
We are highly thankful to Dr. S.V. Dinesh, Principal, SIT Tumkur. So now we request Dr. Shivkumar Ayyam, CEO, SIT Tumkur, to address the audience. Sir.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Respected chief guest of this inaugural function, K. Venkatesh Murthy, Shri Samir Dutt, President of this inaugural function, our respected director, our beloved principal, Dr. S.S. Diana, Professor and Head of the Department of Information Science and Technology, Information Science and Engineering, Dr. Rudramurthy and Purohit Srinivas Acharya, coordinators of this workshop, participants, resource persons, my esteemed colleagues. I am very happy to participate in this 5-day Atal-sponsored faculty development workshop on cybersecurity, that is storage system architecture and file system forensics. I congratulate the Department of Information Science and Engineering for having organized this workshop with sponsorship from AICTE Atal scheme. Now already our respected Venkatesh Murthy and our principal mentioned about the importance of cyber security and also storage system and forensics. As we know, all the organizations and business sources and huge data, and they store the data online. Almost every organization store their data using the cloud, that is they store the confidential data and sensitive information on cloud storage devices like Dropbox and also Google Drive. If this huge data is not properly secured, it will be exploited by cyber criminals. Now, cyber attacks, as we know, cost the organization billions and can cause severe damage. The organization tend to lose the sensitive data as well. Now, now as per a survey or report given by Information Data Corporation, it predicts the worldwide spending on cybersecurity solutions, a massive amount of 133.7 billion by 2022, because there is a great shocking report of 7.9 billion Prakash have been exploited in 9 months in 2019, which is double that happened in 2018. Now projected cybercrime damages in by 2021 will be about $6 trillion, and cyber attacks occurring every 14 seconds. Now, therefore, we need to go for providing solution for these security systems. Now, as Venkatesh Murthy mentioned, that is, we have experts providing tools and technologies for cyber security, and the other side, as our principal mentioned, the cyber criminals, they are also expert in damaging the system. Therefore, we should again go for expertise and how to secure our data and also sensitive information. In this regard, our Department of Information Science and Engineering has organized a workshop on cyber security, and I also visited the Bangalore CID department, where there is a good lab on cyber security, and they also helped us for our MTech program. As Venkatesh Murthy suggested, definitely our Information Science and Engineering department will organize a workshop for local police, which help, as he rightly mentioned, our police people are not updated using the tools and technologies. Although that is in many cities, they are updated. That is in district headquarters and in other places, they are not updated. Therefore, they need to provide the required knowledge. Our Department of Information Science and Engineering will definitely organize a workshop for police and judiciary. I wish this 5-day workshop is highly productive. I wish all the participants take this faculty development workshop seriously, attend all the sessions, and derive benefits. I wish this FDP all the success. Thank you all.
So we remain grateful to Dr. Shivkumar Ray, CEO, SIT, Tumkur, for address the audience. Now we request our beloved director, Dr. M.N. Channabasappa, Siddhaganga Institute of Technology, Tumkur, to deliver the presidential address to the audience. Sir? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So good morning to everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Sir, here actually I am the director.
ಕಾಣೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ. At the outset, I offer my respectful pronouns to our founder president, Dr. Sri Sri Shivakumar Swamiji, and also the present head of Siddhaganga Mutt and Institute of Siddhaganga Institute of Technology. He is the president now, Sri Siddhalinga Swamiji. India is growing fast in digital economy with a record internet users in the world. The digital growth is much accelerated during COVID-19 crisis also. The cyber crime rate is also increasing with increasing internet users in India. The government of India has taken many measures to safeguard Indian cyberspace, and These initiatives require skilled cyber forensic and cyber security professionals in this country. In this regard, Indian academia has started cyber security professionals in the country. In this regard, Indian academia has started cyber professions, forensics, and cyber security courses in AICTE recognized engineering institutions to develop skilled cyber security professionals. Our institute has started postgraduate program, MTech, in cyber forensic and information security. There is an immediate need to develop skilled faculty in research and research scholars with experiential knowledge in the cyber forensic and cyber security domain to protect our Indian cyberspace. Hence, this FDP is very essential and has relevance in the present scenario. The workshop focuses to imbibe valuable experiential knowledge on storage system architecture and file system analysis. To the teaching faculty and research scholars of AICTE recognized engineering institutions and to the industry persons. The resource persons of this workshop are highly experienced with vast knowledge in the domain of cyber forensics and cyber security. And most of them are involving in continual research, product development, forensic investigation, and founders and directors of the cyber forensics and cyber security companies. I am very happy to see that two experts have come from Delhi, Dr. Sri Venkatesh Murthy, as well as security forensic investigation and founders and directors of the cyber forensics and cyber security companies. I am sure the entire distinguished faculty to actively participate in this FDP to strengthen our knowledge, to train our students to produce technically knowledgeable human resource to this country so that they can safeguard our Indian cyberspace. I congratulate the Department of
Department of Information Science and
Information Science.
the mother.
So I wish the department in organizing this particular, I think the first batch of students were enthusiastic and the faculty find it difficult to organize things in such a way that the students are going to get placements. That is one of the difficulties. Get good students to join this program of DP. And I wish the function all the success and let them get more students who will ultimately be taking a lot of interest in the subject. And this learning process will continue, and students will also not get disappointed. They would perhaps find ways and means of getting employment in this particular area. I wish the function all the success. Thank you very much.
Over to Purohit.
Yeah, we remain grateful to Dr. M.N. Channabasappa, Director, SIT Tumku, for delivered the presidential address to the audience. Now, we request Dr. Aparna Madam, Professor, Department of ISC, SIT Tumku, to perform vote of thanks to the dignitaries.
Thank you, Purohit. Good morning, one and all. It's my immense privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. Shri K. Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Security Council of India, is a busy personality and keeps moving across India to investigate the cyber crimes. In spite of his busy schedule, he accepted our invitation to be the chief guest, made it convenient to inaugurate the Atal workshop and to deliver the inaugural speech. On behalf of the institution and on behalf of the Department of Information Science and Engineering, I wholeheartedly thank Shri Venkatesh Murthy. Thank you, sir. Shri Samir Dutt, founder, CEO, forensicsguru.com, is a well-known personality in the field of cyber forensics. We keep approaching Shri Samir Dutt, seeking his guidance related to cyber forensics curriculum. Despite his busy schedule, he made it convenient to grace the occasion as a special invitee. He'll also be delivering a special talk on ethics in cyber forensics right after the inauguration. I take this opportunity to thank Shri Samir Dutt on behalf of the institution and on behalf of the Department of Information Science and Engineering. Thank you very much, sir. Our director, Dr. M.N. Channabasappa, sir, is the source of inspiration for all the activities in the institution. He always encourages and supports organizing workshops since they always help the participants to enrich their knowledge. I profusely thank our director for presiding over the function and for delivering presidential address. Thank you, sir. Our CEO, Dr. Shivkumaraya, takes keen interest in organizing such events and guides us in each and every stage of the event. From the bottom of my heart, I thank our CEO for encouraging us in organizing this workshop. Thank you, sir. Our beloved principal, Dr. S.V. Dinesh, is the guiding force behind all our activities. I sincerely thank our principal for guiding us towards successfully organizing this workshop. Thank you, sir. I thank Dr. H.S. Jayanna, Professor and Head, Department of Information Science and Engineering, for his support and encouragement to organize the workshop. Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Rudramurthy MS, Associate Professor, Department of ISC, for coordinating with various resource persons and for meticulously working hard to organize this workshop. Sir, without your hard work, it would not have been possible to organize this workshop. Thank you very much, sir. I thank Dr. Amulya Sahukar, Assistant Professor, Vedavati First Grade College and Police Trainer, Chitradurga, for praying Almighty with a melodious invocation song. Thank you, madam. I thank all the participants for registering to this workshop and seek your kind cooperation and enthusiastic participation throughout all the sessions of the workshop. I thank all the faculty and staff of the Department of Information Science and Engineering for their enormous cooperation in the organization of this workshop. Once again, I thank one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. So now it's my immense pleasure to invite our beloved expert speaker, Sri Samir Dutt, founder, CEO, ForensicGuru.com, New Delhi, to deliver a special talk on ethics in cyberspace. Sir. Sir, Samir, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Now we'll share the PPT, sir.
Yes, if you could please. Thank you.
I will stop sharing it.
Could I request you to share the PPT, please?
Just. Jagadish. One minute. ನೋಡಮ್ಮ ಇವರು ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಓಕೆ ಬಂತು ಈಗ ನೋಡು. ನಾವು ಶೇರ್ ಇಟ್. Sir, it's ready.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning once again to one and all. My topic for the day is ethics in cyberspace, and we've been, discussing a lot about the, file systems and cyber forensics and all the kind of data that we expect to find on these systems that we're going to be investigating. But one issue that is not discussed very often but carries a lot of relevance is about ethics. So that's what we're going to talk about. And essentially, there is something about ethics that is crucial to life. It is crucial to our human civilization, and it is also crucial in the digital world. And we will discuss it as we go on by and by. Next, please. Next slide, please. You have already had an introduction of me. This is a brief bio, so that's fine. Next slide, please. So what is ethics? See, it's basically, it's not a science. It's a branch of philosophy that deals with what is considered to be right or wrong. So essentially, this is something that we know from inside. This is our conscience. This is our belief. This is our value system. This is what we call, sanskara. So the sanskars are what have been given to us, and it is part of our humanity. We know what is right. We know what is wrong. Inside of us, we know what is correct. It's the same in the digital world. There have been many definitions of ethics that have been widely proposed. Like, it's a code of morals of a particular profession. So ethically, it is more of a code than a law. Of course, some of these ethics may be part of laws. There might be laws to, do it or enforce it. However, there are definitely, something which we will call as good ethics, which may not be illegal, but which may still, not be ethically correct or morally correct. So this is the code of morals of a particular profession. Similarly, the standards of conduct of a given profession, agreement among people to do the right and to avoid wrong. So there are times when there are, verbal, spoken and written agreements, what is right, what is wrong. And then there are, certain unwritten but understood agreements of what is right and what is wrong. Like I'll give you this example of auto rickshaw driver who was, who found that there was one passenger who had left behind her purse and it had 30,000 rupees in it. So he opened the purse, he looked inside, he found the 30,000 rupees, he searched for the name and the number, and he could not find the name and the number of this lady. So he took the purse with the 30,000 rupees and everything to the police station nearby, and he explained what the thing was. And he, along with the police officers there, ultimately located the lady and handed her her purse. That lady had given up. She was in tears, and she thought that, oh, that 30,000 rupees is gone. But this is his ethics, his morals. That okay, he tried to see. He saw the money inside. He did not take it. The next thing is he searched for her, but he could not find her. But he put in the extra effort, and then he actually went to the police station. And then the morals of the police officer also were good, that he also associated with him and put in the effort to locate the lady and give her the money. So it is what is right, what is wrong, an agreement among the people that that this is the right thing to do. So that is ethics. As per Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, it is the discipline dealing with what is good and bad, and with moral duty and obligation. So essentially, this is what differentiates us from animals. We are a higher form, a higher spiritually evolved human being, because we have ethics, and that is the key. So in simple words, it is the study of what is right to do in a given situation and what we ought to do. So this is what is important, right? Can we have the next slide, please? So there is a fine line between what is unethical and what is illegal. So what we must understand is what is unethical is not necessarily illegal. Like you will say, you will find, in a lot of British conversations or British movies, one person will say to the other, this is not done. Now, when they say it is not done, they mean that this is not ethical. Legally, it may be correct, but ethically, it is not. So in our everyday life, many individuals and organizations are faced with these common ethical problems. Sometimes, in organizations, there is legal monitoring of employee emails. Is it permitted? Legally, yes. Is it controversial? Yes. Is it ethical? Yes. No. This is, subject to debate. So there are a lot of gray areas, a lot of things that are there. In fact, tens of millions of computers are monitored, mostly without the knowledge of the employees, by the employers. So employees have limited protection against employers' electronic surveillance. Now, again, there is a fine line. So it may not be ethical to monitor the employees without the employees knowing that they are being monitored. However, it becomes ethical if the employer informs the employee in advance that, look, your systems are going to be monitored for data theft, for wrongdoing, for non-permissible behavior, or whatever. And then that makes it ethical. So there are these fine lines that are drawn between ethical and illegal and not. So the definitions of right and wrong are not clear, but internally what we all have this moral compass which guides us that, okay, this is right or this is wrong. So one needs to be clear on that. Next, please. So that brings us to the cyber world. So what is cyber ethics? It is a philosophic study of ethics related to computer networks, including user behavior. So basically, it is the ethics applied to the cyber environment, to the online environment. That is what cyber ethics is about. Next, please. So why are we concerned about cyber ethics? So what happens that, a lot of people will defame other people online because it's easy to do, because it's very easy to access, where it's fairly easy to hide one's identity, to take, even fake one's identity, create an identity of somebody else and use that for defaming people, for harassing people, for bullying people. We find that it can be used for stealing information, for committing crimes, for doing a lot of wrong things. So the internet lends itself to a lot of anonymity, and that is where cyber forensics comes in, because our role is to unmask the anonymity, to deep dive and identify people who are wrongdoers. However, when it comes to ethics, one has to follow the right kind of ethics, because when you know that this is something that is wrong, it is not correct to do that kind of a thing. So morally, again, it is not correct. So from a cyber perspective also, it is not correct. Now, information in the cyber world is accessible globally. That means that anybody, anywhere can access information. So just because it is not of information of somebody it does not justify that you steal it. There are times, when we come across misconfigured websites. Now, what happens is that we accidentally do a backspace or we remove a folder, and suddenly all the contents of that folder is visible. Now, is it ethical to take the data that is there because it has suddenly been unmasked because somebody has misconfigured that website? I don't think so. So this is again what cyber ethics is about. I mean, internally, your moral compass decides that is this the right thing to do or is this the wrong thing to do? The right thing to do is to inform that organization that, look, your website is not configured well and your data is exposed to the world and you're likely to have it stolen. So there can be a lot of social impacts, when when information technology is used in the cyber world in a wrong way. I mean, we've seen and heard of so many cases where children have committed suicide because of people harassing them online, posting their pictures online, compromised pictures, sometimes nude pictures, sometimes all kinds of things. So these kind of things have created major impacts on the human psyche, on society, on people as such. And this is the kind of impact that has a long-lasting effect. And it's all due to our poorness in cyber ethics. So we need to understand that there is, security aspects, privacy issues, and things like that, which when breached can cause major negative impacts on our digital world. So computer networks can be threatened by many things, by internal and external hazards internationally. So this is something that makes it very vulnerable. And we use a lot of technology to prevent it. We use a lot of technology to investigate it. But internally, there is no technology to police cyber ethics. So cyber ethics is something that we need to develop a common understanding globally, that this is done, this is not done, this is correct, this is not correct, so that we can follow and do the right thing. We can do the ethically right thing, so that the work that is being done, say somebody is producing copyrighted work, somebody is developing some technology, somebody is making some work of art, somebody is developing some amazing software, somebody is putting in some additional effort to create a paper on a specific thing. People are doing a lot of research, and unless they have given it on open sourced it to the world, it should not be stolen, it should not be copied, it should not be duplicated, and things like that. So these are some of the things that cyber ethics involves. And it's cyber ethics, as I mentioned, is a bit of a gray area. It's a subject that is not easily quantifiable unless a determined effort is made to do so. Next, please. So why do we need cyber ethics? So a lot of us take actions to harness the power of IT and also to survive its revolution. So if we find that IT is extensively being used for non-ethical purposes, what is going to happen? A lot of policing is going to happen. A lot of monitoring is going to happen. A lot of individuals who should not be monitored are going to be monitored. Free speech is going to be monitored. Government is going to take control of things like that, like what we see in China. So unless internally, as individuals, as society as a whole, we do not evolve and develop our own cyber ethics, this encourages a lot of organizations to police in a much stricter way to prevent all sorts of misdemeanors and bad activities online. So cyber ethics is basically a way of self-policing, of way of developing a common understanding of what should be, what is good, what is bad, so that automatically the number of people committing what is bad is reduced dramatically, and cyber policing is also limited to that. Next, please. Essentially, ethical issues can be divided into three categories. First is categories related to privacy, access rights, and then harmful actions. These are the three. So what happens? They are involved in the exchange of information on a very large scale. In fact, and I look back to the days before the internet, I don't know how we survived without email. I mean, today, every kind of communication is done over email and WhatsApp and other electronic means. But earlier, we used to send letters. And sometimes letters would take 15 days to get where they had to go. We would send, postcards. I remember those yellow postcards with that 15 rupee printed stamp on it, which was used extensively for communication. And we could write very small things and write a lot of things on that. Similarly, normal letters were sent, then they were registered posts and things like that. Today, the role of the post has come down dramatically and the communication has moved primarily to an online mode. And this has increased the potential for disclosing information and violating privacy. So what normally happens is that, we see a huge number of breaches online. We see that, Facebook users, usernames, passwords, details have been leaked online. LinkedIn users, username, passwords, details have been leaked online. A lot of, hero, heroines, private photos have been released online. A lot of people's, who have shopped with, say, Target, their details are all released online. So in such situations, what is happening? That there is a tremendous amount of information that is out there, which is open sourced and which is not open sourced. So that which is open sourced can be ethically accessed, but that which should be private and is private is being accessed by people, that is, a violation of ethical practices. So then there are access rights. Now, if I work, say, in an organization and I have a username password that limits me to certain specific areas of the computer networks of that organization, if I escalate my privileges illegally, if I escalate my access rights illegally, and I start accessing information I'm not supposed to, that is unethical. Basically, what has happened is, it was considered a low priority thing, but sorry, could you scroll back, please? Back, please. The previous slide. Thank you. So initially, when there was not a lot of data online, it was not considered very important. Username, passwords, people used to share their username, passwords. In fact, I remember, in a bank, I was talking to some people and we were just having a chat and I said, how strong are your passwords? So these bank managers, they were sitting here, we were all having a coffee. This was between my talk and, on this conference table, and they began to, look at each other and smile and laugh. And I said, okay, so what's the joke? Why are you so smiling at each other like secretly? Like, why, what is it that is there about the passwords that you are not mentioning? So they said, sir, our passwords mean pass the word. Now think of it as a bank manager's role. You have to authorize a transaction. That means that you have to be physically present at all times in the bank. Now suppose I have to go outside for a little while, maybe to meet a client, maybe to pick up my child from school, maybe to do anything. So if I have to leave the bank at any given time, I cannot be present at all the times. I have to pass my password on to my next in command or the next person. So I cannot stop the functioning of the bank. So a password is pass the word. So in those days, a password's value was comparatively less vis-a-vis what it is today, where the value of the password is your whole life. All your details are there, so that it controls access to confidential information, personal information, high priority information, valuable information. And it is not just from an individual's perspective, it is also from corporations, and it's also from government agencies. So access rights are crucial. Then there are harmful actions, actual harmful actions. Yesterday I was reading how somebody remotely shut down a ventilator and killed an individual who was on that ventilator. So people can actually cause physical harm and commit remote murders with IT. And so harm to any users can be also in terms of privacy, in terms of leak of information. It could be intentional destruction or even modification of files. And this could cause serious loss of resources or unnecessary expenditure of human resources. It can cause, large scale loss of human life as well. Suppose like for a nuclear reactor, if the, devices that control the nuclear reactor are, say, put out of action, the whole nuclear reactor could, say, burst into flames. And there could be a nuclear explosion causing huge damage around in the surrounding areas. So, these are all issues that need to be addressed. Next, please. Next, please. So let's talk about the cyber ethics concerns. What are the concerns that are common when it comes to cyber ethics? In a corporate environment, there is what is known as an AUP, or an acceptable use policy. Now, what is an acceptable use policy? Basically, what happens is that ever since technology has been extensively implemented in corporations and in government and in a lot of organizations, what has happened is that there have been many instances of technology being misused for nefarious purposes, for personal purposes, for non-organizational purposes and things like that. So most organizations come up with what is known as an AUP, or an acceptable use policy. That this equipment, these facilities are provided to you for use for organizational purposes during work hours and should be utilized for as such. It should not be misutilized for things like illegal things or unacceptable things. And this is where you can define your ethics, because here you can list out what are illegal, but you can also list out what is unethical. That all right, you're not supposed to use it for these purposes. So now this again is where people tend to disregard the AUP, then they become in violation of the AUP, and from an organization perspective, this is not acceptable and can be a cause for termination. So that is why people put in acceptable use policies. And from a cyber ethics perspective, this is an area of concern where people violate these AUPs. Second area is piracy. Again, unauthorized duplication and distribution of items such as games, software, DVDs, music, etc. This can actually, cause huge amounts of loss to organizations, and it can also cause not only financial loss, but for people who have got piracy happening within the organization networks. It could cause data loss. It could act as an entry point for ransomware, and we see a lot of that. It is also a source for theft of credentials, and a lot of exporters lose their money because their username passwords have been stolen. Mails are originating from them, and things like that, and their money is being diverted to different bank accounts and all that stuff. Then there is something called an end user license agreement violation, what we call the EULA, which was made famous by Microsoft. Whenever anybody sells you software, whether it's a game or a CD or anything, what they're selling you is a license to use the software, not to own them, which means that you cannot, copy the software. You cannot give it away to somebody else. You cannot say, all right, let me modify the software for my own use. Unless the owner expressly permits it, it is expressly prohibited. This is another area of concern. Next, please. Plagiarism. Now, this is something that is very common in the academic world, and now there are a number of online engines which allow you to actually check your document with the rest of the world's information. That is online, of course, which you can compare to see that if there any information that may have originated from some other source and which has not been attributed or attributed correctly. So what does plagiarism involve? Using another person's ideas, words, images, or original works and showing them as your own without acknowledging the source. Cyberbullying. So cyberbullying is when a teen or child is tormented, threatened, harassed, humiliated, embarrassed, or otherwise targeted by another child or teen using the internet, interactive and digital technologies or cell phones. Next, please. Worms and viruses, these are malicious programs. They will steal data, they will, exfiltrate data, they will maybe shut down computers, they will, ransom your computers and things like that. Password theft or violating privacy. Again, you use somebody else's password to access his information or her information, their documents, and then distribute the private information of one or the other person online and things like that. Next, please. So what this does is it raises some questions. Is it okay to display personal information about another person on the internet? Think about it. I mean, there are people you have, information about. Is it okay to display it on the internet? When you display information about yourself, you are expressly giving, permission to the internet to use it because you have put it up there in a public forum. But you do not have permission to put up somebody else's personal data on the internet. So it is not ethical. It is not okay to display personal information about other people on the internet. A lot of students, a lot of children, a lot of people tend to do that about other people, and that causes the other people a lot of anguish, harm, mental disturbance and things like that. Now the question arises, who owns digital data? For example, we are looking at music, we are looking at those videos, we are looking at books, web pages, whatnot. And what is the extent to which users can use it, and how can they use it, and should they be even allowed to use it? These are again questions that arise. These are what we call points to ponder. We need to define who is allowed to access the data, who is allowed to access the information, and for how long, and from where, and when. All these are issues that need to be addressed. So can we enable safeguards to ensure that information can be accessed only by the right person or members of a specific organization and things like that? So how do we do things like that? How can we enable these kind of safeguards? How can we ensure that our things are secure and somebody is not unethically accessing the information, things like that? So many times in the limelight, we've seen instances of, say, Chinese companies infiltrating, say, African tenders, stealing the information about the tender, about the competitors' bids and things like that, and then bidding in those tenders and winning it because they have already advanced information about this. There are so many instances where these people have supplied equipment, routers and things like that, where the information is being stolen and is being passed on and that is, public knowledge. Next, please. So why should we be concerned about cyber ethics? See, everybody relies on technical measures to protect themselves from false information. Because our data is important, because our data may be critical, because our data may be, crucial to life, to the human race even. So the people want to protect it. They're concerned about cyber ethics because people who are non-ethical may steal the data. They might even deny access to it or even destroy valuable information. Denying access has become so common. They will, run ransomware will encrypt the systems and will prevent people from accessing it and will charge you bitcoins for, allowing you access back. So this is very, it's a very simple concept which has been sort of implemented and which is causing people worldwide a lot of problem. So it is not sufficient, to self-protect, to make cyberspace a safe place. So there is our desire and intent that the rule of law must be enforced. Again, the concept of ethics is more from a self-policing perspective. The rule of law is from an external policing perspective, and the law has to be conformed to. When it is not, then in contravention of the law, then the law needs to be enforced, and then there are punishments meted out. But when we are talking about ethics, if it is outside the law, it is not under the purview of the law, but then it is up to the individual whether they need to go towards the right or the wrong. So these are, certain aspects. Again, the novice user who's just learning to navigate a computer and the internet to an information technology professional, each and every one of these must be taught cyber ethics. They must understand the importance of cyber ethics. They must understand that, deep down, we all know what is right. We all know what is wrong. And from that perspective, we must take actions accordingly. So anybody who uses the internet in any mode, they must be taught ethical practices in every aspect of its use. Please. There are some basic rules. Do not do anything in cyberspace that you would consider wrong or illegal in everyday life. That's a very good thumb rule. It's a good reference point. In fact, that is something that should be followed throughout life, that if you feel that it is not correct or wrong to do it in real life, why do it in cyberspace? You should never use rude or offensive language. Do not be a bully on the internet. Like, we tend to call people names, tell lies about them, send embarrassing pictures of them, use deep fakes to create, images which are not actually theirs but look like theirs and things like that. Or we do things to dishearten people, to depress them, to, put them through difficult times. It is not done. One should not be a bully on the internet. That is unethical. And one should also not encourage cyber bullies. So if you have a situation when somebody is being a cyber bully, it makes sense from our side to take action, report it, tell the cyber bully off, look, what you're doing is wrong. This is not the correct way. This is unethical. So it's important, Again, internet should be used for research and information, but don't use the research and information in a wrong way to get copyrighted information and grab it as our own. Next, please. We do not want to, hack into other people's computers. Do not attempt to infect or in any way try to make someone else's computer unusable. Don't share personal information too easily. Do not use the internet to expand your social and business network, and don't hamper others in doing so. Next, please. Guard your privacy. What people know about you is up to you. So what we put on the internet is, what determines what people know about you. So we need to be careful of what is the information that we put out there. We need to, be safe. So limit the information that you publicly post, because the more information that is out there, the more the people know about you. I mean, I give this example, that Priyanka Chopra, very famous actress, She has got lots of personal information online. I mean, a lot of them have. So, if somebody is like, if we have our own account online and that is protected by, say, a password, and if you have a forget password, they ask you some questions. They ask you, what is the name of your pet, or what is your mother's maiden name, or what is your date of birth, and things like that. All this with proper research is available online. So if you put all this information online, what happens is that people can access your accounts. So it's very important, to be safe on the internet, and it's very important to ensure that your data is not out there. Protect your reputation. Self-reflect before you self-reveal. What's funny or edgy today could cost you tomorrow. So don't think it's funny and you disclose it and things like that. Think about it before you put it out there. And remember, nothing is private online, and it remains online forever. So anything that you say or do can be copied, pasted, and sent to billions of people without your permission. Assume everyone is watching. There is a huge, vast audience out there. Someone you don't know also has access to your information. So you may not know a person, but they also can access your information. And when they can access your information, what happens is that they can misuse it. So these are important things. Apply the golden rule that if you don't want it done to you, ensure that you don't do it to anybody else. You don't want that same thing happening to you. Make sure you don't do it to anybody else. And balance your life. Don't spend all your life online. This is not where you want to do. There is a lot of life that is offline. Please utilize that. I know COVID has pushed us online a lot, but we must also spend time offline. Next, please. Okay, so choose wisely. Back, please. A lot of content is not appropriate. Don't use anonymity to cloak your actions. This doesn't turn you into a trustworthy, responsible human being. Think about what you see. Just because you find it over the internet doesn't make it true. There's a lot of things on internet, on WhatsApp that is being circulated all over. It doesn't make it true. Don't believe it. It may not be the truth. So be smart, be safe. Not everyone is who they say they are. And when you're online, you need to be more alert. You need to be very careful when interacting with people. So all these things are points to be considered. They should always be kept in mind. So, and also full disclosure, a lot of this information has been garnered and collected from the internet. So I just wanted to attribute it to that. And thank you very much. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. I'm available online, offline. If you feel like being in touch, please feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Siddhganga Institute of Technology, Tumkur, extends our sincere thanks to our beloved Chief Guest, Sri K. Venkatesh Murthy, Director, Data Security Council of India, and our special invitee and expert speaker, Sri Samir Dutt, Founder, CEO, ForensicGuru.com, for supporting and encouraging us towards the success of this Atal FDP on cyber security, storage systems architecture, and file system forensics. So thank you, sir, once again. So now the next session will be starts at 11 o'clock. For all the participants has to rejoin the same link. Using the same link, you can rejoin to the next session at 11. Thank you, sir.